Hello and thanks for stopping by. This is Missile Command for the Sony PlayStation, released by Hasbro Interactive and Atari in 1999, and I'm playing this game on a PlayStation 2. It's a bit of a struggle getting the best graphical output from this system to play on an HDMI TV, but I think I'm starting to get my brain around it. It's weird, my memory is telling me that these graphics should look much better than they currently do, but I do know that television resolution was very different when this game was released, and just the technology behind the televisions and how they displayed an image anyway. So maybe it just looked better back then as a result of that. Maybe we were just used to it. I've been watching videos online and checking various settings, but this is currently what I have working for me. I'm going to keep on it though. I might be able to get some better fidelity. Missile Command is an update of a 1980s game. A very early 80s game, actually. I did a review of the Atari 2600 version of the game not too long ago, and it was pretty good overall, especially for a 2600 game. This is just an update really, and it's through and through a 90s style video game. You can play the classic mode of Missile Command, of course, which is pretty much exactly like the original game, but with better graphics. It certainly looks better, but the gameplay is fundamentally the exact same. I suppose if you like Missile Command, you'll be happy with that one. But there's also a newer game included here, and it's called Ultimate, which is mostly the standard gameplay, but they've moved the game into a 3D setting and they've attempted to put a story behind it. Not much of a story, but roughly it's a story. Like many PlayStation games from this era, there was a focus to include 3D graphics and music. This was the PlayStation, and they utilized CD media to store games. Compared to even cartridge-based games, this was considerably larger space to store data with. Developers, they started changing how the games looked, and they started inserting animations all over the place, or motion video that maybe wasn't even necessary. There's a startup movie to this game, and it shows you the start of the invasion, and when the game starts, you get a bunch of soldiers racing around to fight. The models that they use for these soldiers, total 90s animations with the robotic models, very few features. Back in the PlayStation days, of course, this was awesome stuff. The Ultimate game is basically like the classic Missile Command, but you now have 3 missile turrets that are not actually on the ground. They're ships that are floating above a city, and your job is to protect the city from getting destroyed. The whole level that you're playing is basically one area of the planet, and once you've beaten that, you'll move on to another part of the planet to protect that area. There's a radar at the bottom of the screen, and that radar becomes increasingly more useful as the difficulty to the game increases. You're going to have to start paying attention to it to get used to what it's doing. As the missiles descend, you can move the camera around to get a better view of the incoming fire. You'll need to pay attention to not only the missiles, but other objects and ships that may be trying to destroy you and your offensive capabilities. Like the standard game, you have limited ammunition, and you'll have to ration it to maximize your effectiveness, but still, all the basics of Missile Command are still there. You have to protect yourself, and you have to protect the cities that you're floating above. Also, you control the aiming target with the gamepad, but you can fire each of your 3 cannons separately. Each cannon has their own ammunition and their own button on the controller. You can of course overuse one cannon and run out of ammo over there, or you could also be at a loss if that particular cannon had plenty of ammunition and it got destroyed. If you beat a few levels, the game will shift and you'll get to fight a boss. The fact that you get to actually fight a boss at the end of the stage is a pretty large change from the original game. In this one, you get to go into orbit and fight a mothership, for the first boss anyway. It's a different style of gameplay when you're doing that too. You're not really destroying missiles as much as you're trying to aim and destroy weak points of a boss, and then pick up bonus icons along the way. After you beat the boss, you'll move on to another level, which is another city on the planet, so the backdrop will change, the graphics will adjust as you move around the planet. You can also buy upgrades if you have the currency to do so that you sort of get throughout the game. And then after you've bought whatever upgrades you want, you'll start the next level. Obviously, a new level increases in difficulty, so there are going to be probably more enemies to fight, they might be faster, and there also is probably going to be a wider area that you have to cover. That's where the specialty map at the bottom of the screen becomes more valuable. I will say the controller takes some getting used to. The original PS1 gamepad is probably more difficult to use compared to the analog controller with the thumbsticks. I know in a PS2 having the thumbsticks does take some getting used to, but it's definitely easier to move the firing reticle. It's nice to see more depth to Missile Command, but I have to say, this is still fundamentally the same game, and at its core it's still pretty basic. I know they attempt to have a story in this one, but really there's nothing to get invested in here. It's just to sort of grind through the different levels and see what's in store. It's a decent enough arcade-style game, I think, and I'm happy to know you can continue an existing game. You can actually pick up where you left off, so you don't have to worry about hammering away for hours every time you play. You can put it down and come back to it later in the day. I think that alone makes this game a lot easier to play. Well, that's all I have today for Missile Command for the PlayStation. Thanks for stopping by, and I'll catch you on the next video.